If an anime has vampires, it almost certainly has werewolves too. If an anime has werewolves, it most probably has vampires as well. This is not limited to anime though. It has been a long tradition for both of these medieval monsters to be present in each other's stories across various works of fiction, as they are considered to be natural enemies. When it comes to werewolves, there is a sense of sentimentality and emotions involved, specifically due to pack loyalty. The bonds between werewolves are seemingly stronger, allowing for their stories to take on roles that go beyond standard good versus evil and obligatory world building. There are others who just want to watch the world burn because their human side shows up more than their inner wolf. And although their abilities play a huge role in their popularity, as that's what draws us in, it is often the emotional roles they take on that make us want to stick around. In today's role, we'll discuss 25 such werewolves, ranging from those who wanted to avenge their packs to those who wanted to find paradise, and all the wackiness and insanity that lies in the middle of that spectrum. The Captain, Hellsing. The Captain from Hellsing is a natural werewolf who's affiliated with the Millennium Forces as well as the Waffen SS. Known as a stoic bodyguard with a silent predisposition, the Captain boasts an expressionless persona and has, strangely enough, not spoken at all throughout the series. Since he's a natural werewolf, perhaps the Captain was raised like a wolf, which eventually led to him never speaking, even when he's in his human form. When he does transform, the Captain turns into a large white wolf. Millennium Forces consider him to be their trump card, much like Hellsing, who found theirs in the vampire Alucard. Interestingly, the Captain had already fought Alucard once before the events of Hellsing, when Millennium's main research facility was attacked during the Second World War. That year, he was also a participant in the Malmedy massacre. He travels to South America with the rest of Millennium during the show and stays in hiding, with a secret mission of retrieving Walter, who's the butler of the Hellsing family. To his credit, he manages to bring Walter to Millennium. He also engages in combat with Sirius. They start off with a gun battle and eventually move on to hand-to-hand combat. While Sirius is already overpowered, the Captain transforms into his beast form to attain victory. While he batters her to a pulp, she kicks a silver tooth taken out of a Jewish captive's mouth to Pip, which is ultimately used by Bernadotte to stab him deep in the heart. Although he does die from this, the Captain bears no regrets as he wanted to be released. He wanted to die. However, in battle, the Captain does not care about how much damage his body may take because he can regenerate anyway. Naturally, he possesses superhuman strength, speed, reflexes, and the like. Bar the silver tooth, the Captain is also immortal. He has a mist form that makes him an intangible and invulnerable being who can evade any attack. However, he needs to make himself semi-tangible if he has to initiate the attack towards his opponent. Meanwhile, his mist shield fends off attacks. The Captain is also quite the capable fighter in his human form with his decades of experience with weapons and opponents. This leads to him being a great marksman as well. He proves himself once again when Walter's lethal wires do nothing to the Captain, who grabs them with his bare hands and suffers no damage. Meanwhile, the likes of Alucard were cut in half while fighting Walter, and his wires could tear buildings apart. Shira Ito, Tokimeki Tonight. Shira Ito is a werewolf known for her temper during a full moon. She's married to a vampire named Mori and has two children, namely Ranze and Rinze. Shira does not like humans all that much, which becomes a problem when her daughter Ranze, who is also the protagonist, grows to fall in love with a human named Shun. She considers Shun to be lowly because of that, but eventually she begins to appreciate it. In her human form, she wears a pink gown and has blonde hair. In her wolf form, she looks more like a big brown dog. She looks really funny when she turns into a wolf while retaining her blonde hair. She shows off her prowess during her fight against Mori, when he screeches to summon bats while hoping to stop her. However, her howling ends up creating a wind, lightning, and snowstorm, in what is possibly the most comically exaggerated depiction of a werewolf family to date. Batanen Fujioka, Hyper Police. Tokyo becomes home to a werewolf thanks to Batanen Fujioka working as a bounty hunter for the police company as well as the Grey Company. In the show, he's 39 years old and part of the police company's senior class. He probably experiences some sort of a sister complex as he treats Natsuki like a sister while being very much in love with her. He's very embarrassed but still eager to make a move on her, but he begins to hesitate when she makes a move on him instead. Not only is Fujioka a great bounty hunter, but he's also nearly immortal and can regenerate thanks to his status as a werewolf. Wolfgang von Craftman, Hatage, Kimono Michi. A wolf man with the body of a human and the head of a wolf, Wolfgang von Craftman is technically a beast man. However, the humanoid part of his body is covered in great fur and he has an even furrier tail. The entire story takes place in a strange isekai setting where a pro wrestler and animal lover is transported into a land of beasts because a princess needs him to exterminate said beasts. At one point, the gruff Wolfgang from the beast world meets Genzo with Misha, a cat girl who Wolfgang considers considers to be a sister. Having never seen an animal like a dog before, they think of stealing Genzo's pet and selling him, but they're creeped out by Genzo. Soon after, Genzo tackles the two of them and pets them without their consent. Misha labels him as a pervert and wishes to take him down someday as revenge. However, Wolfgang continues to be against his sister's desire for revenge because he thinks of Genzo as a dangerous man. Shino, Fuse, Memoirs of the Hunter Girl, is an animated film that revolves around a hunter girl named Hamaji leaving the mountains and going to the big city of Edo after receiving a letter from her brother Dosetsu. In Edo, she meets Shino, the were-dog, who helps her find her brother's house. He's a famous kabuki theater actor and one of the last remaining Fuse. However, in his daily life, he attacks Fuse hunters to avenge his kin. Hamaji learns of his identity while Shino develops the desire of eating her essence. Soon, Hamaji learns that her brother is planning to hunt down a Fuse or were-dog for a bounty. The duo take down a female Fuse and news reaches Shino, who decides to hunt down the shogun of Edo to avenge her. As the plot progresses, Hamaji and Shino form a connection that leads to Shino being able to leave Edo altogether. Leica Zombie L, a werewolf who lives through the death of all of his kin. Leica finds his abode in a humble cave. The place is surrounded by bones and he lives there all by himself. One day, he's found by the main cast when they venture into his cave, where Leica is tamed by Kuze Shimotsuki's mysterious powers. Leica is then taken to the city and sent to Z-Lone under the hopes that it will help Leica become stronger. Leica himself wishes for the same due to his desire to protect Shimotsuki. With time, Leica attends school, learns human speech, and bites those he dislikes. He also gains the ability to sense any doors that lead to supernatural worlds when opened by Shimotsuki, which is pretty unique considering most werewolves only sense extra-dimensional activity on full moons. Lobo Wildman, Princess Resurrection Site. As a wolf, Lobo is big and has white fur. His father, Volg Wildman, is a werewolf warrior, a full-blooded werewolf who's blind in one eye. Lobo Wildman used to be a soldier of the Royal Guard and served Hime. At some point, he was forced to betray Hime by the latter's older brother, Dukin. This is because there is nothing Lobo prioritized more than his half-sister, Rize. However, Dukin had used Rize's life as a bargaining chip by holding her hostage to make sure Lobo betrayed his master. He was later killed honorably in battle. When it comes to fighting skills, Lobo does not shy away from hand-to-hand close-quarters combat. He's also fast and can command a pack of wolves to hunt or kill. Yuli Jiro, Sirius the Jaeger. He's the protagonist of his show and he's known for being a half-werewolf. He desires vengeance on the vampires who destroyed his homeland Dogville, which led to him becoming a Jaeger. The term Jaeger is German for a male hunter. Jiro revels in his solitude and unapproachable aura, but he's not devoid of showing his soft side if the occasion arises. As an avenger, Jiro wants to kill all vampires. However, his mother Sachi was human. This makes him only part werewolf, and as a result, he's not as powerful as the others. Still, he does possess a fair amount of superhuman senses and abilities and can detect vampires by smelling blood on them. He has an incredible pain tolerance and recovers quickly. He wields a multi-shape changing 3-section staff with which he can kill royal vampires. He also seals the Arc of Sirius in his right eye to gain access to new powers, but information about this is vague. But that doesn't matter because Jirov's true strength lies in his rage, which causes his eyes and veins to turn blue when it reaches a certain point. His physical strength increases dramatically, but he also turns feral to the point of losing control and becomes susceptible to hurting those he never intended to go after in the first place. Boma, Heat Guy J. The story of Heat Guy J revolves around Daisuke Aurora, a special services officer, and J, his android partner. It's set in a futuristic city known as Judo. The show introduces us to a silent but mysterious refugee known as Boma. His past crimes led to him being turned into a beast-human hybrid, which was a punishment meant for the worst criminals. It made them regret their sins for the rest of their lives. At the same time, if they escaped prison, their beastly appearance would make it easy to track them down. The procedure was done by grafting the heads of beasts onto the criminals' human bodies. Naturally, you don't have to strain your mind too much to guess which beast they paired Boma's body with. Boma finds a way out of this as he conceals his wolf-like features using a holographic device, as he seems to be on the search for his missing sister Usagi. At one point, he gets the job of destroying Jay, but refuses it. Eventually, he goes on to become allies with both Daisuke and Jay. In terms of abilities, Boma wields a monomolecular blade which makes him lethal, considering his expertise in swordsmanship. Mashira, Vampire Hunter D. He is one of the 3 powerful barbaroi or mutants hired by the vampire noble Mayerling, who wanted the mutants to guard his carriage. Mashira has been living in his home village for over 500 years. After he meets Mayerling and his lover, Mashira and the other barbaroi Carolyn observe the former couple and develop an attraction towards them. However, Mashira shows his sadistic streak as he wishes to sexually ravage Mayerling's lover while keeping the man at bay, to the point that she gets disheveled enough for Mayer to not recognize her again. Although she is saved by another perverted hunter, Mashira takes over his body and continues to pursue the girl. Later, the protagonist D's homunculus parasite Left Hand acknowledges Mashira to be one of his kind as D tries to kill the beast. While Mashira ends up killing Mayerling, D's left hand consumes Mashira before the latter can get to another body. Being a werewolf, Mashira possesses greater strength and senses, but his ultimate ability is to switch bodies or parts of himself to other hosts. He is twisted and perverted, and enjoys transferring parts of himself to the person he forcibly copulates with to enjoy the activity from the girl's point of view. He can even manifest as a tumor on the face or any other body part, like left hand on D, and gains complete control over his host even if the host is dead. With werewolf vision, Mashira can see through objects, discern people's physical traits, and see energy sources. Although he maintains his wolf form, he can mutate into an upgraded wolf state and boost his abilities. Koga, Yuasa, part of the Yoro clan which was nearly wiped out and the young leader of the eastern yokai wolf tribe, Koga and Inuyasha first met in battle where they stood against each other. We see him pursuing a wolf demon who has stolen a sacred jewel shard. He mercilessly kills the demon and leaves his wolves to eat the villagers. However, Inuyasha arrives to slaughter the evils, and because he kills Koga's underlings, a rivalry between the wolf and the mutt is born. He then goes on to kidnap Kagame, as she can sense Shikon jewel shards. As such, he wants to use her to find the bird of paradise. Unfortunately for him, he falls in love with Kagame because Inuyasha loves her as well. This amps up their rivalry as they compete for her love, but in the end, Inuyasha wins the battle of love. However, they went on to work as allies occasionally. They sought strength as well as a desire to defeat Naruku, who was responsible for wiping out a majority of Koga's clan. In terms of personality, Koga is simple and straightforward. With time, he develops compassion for humans after falling for Kagame. As the leader of his tribe, he has complete trust in his partners and protects the pack despite the dangers of being in the front lines. He's also very proud of his kin and isn't afraid to go for revenge when someone hurts his pack. As tribe leader, Koga has superhuman stats, senses, and healing. He can also tear through the hard skin of a demon using his wolf demon clan claws, but he's also a great hand-to-hand combatant. He possesses the ability to sense danger as his body hair stands on its ends. His abilities also increase with the jewel shards, as the 3 shards he possessed increased his quickness and the strength of his right arm. He could use this strength to create a high-speed tornado, even using high-speed movements to create a vacuum and even literal cyclones. Free, Soul Eater. Free, or the Wolfman with the Demon Eye, is the last standing werewolf from the Immortal clan. He was imprisoned for stealing Grand Witch Maba's left eye 200 years ago. However, he was defeated by her despite his immortality, as Maba restrained him for life in Witch Prison. She also kept the key to his cell on her person to prevent his escape. Free is vicious in combat, but comedic when he wants to be. He eventually escapes Witch Prison. He then steals another of Maba's eyes as a more skilled fighter. He goes on to join Medusa Gorgon's group, Medusa's faction, as her instruction had allowed Yurka Frog to free him. As part of her faction, he acts as her operative until her very death. Unfortunately for him, he has a terrible sense of direction and hates it when others pay attention to his mistakes. When indebted to someone, Free likes to repay them as soon as he can. Being a werewolf, he was a lot more powerful than humans, obviously, and could shapeshift between his 2 forms. In the Wolfman of Legend form, his strength and soul heighten in power compared to the human form, and he gets access to several spells and techniques. He also gets claws that can extend in combat alongside greater durability, strength, and senses. However, he retains his sense of smell in his human form. Bree is proficient in the martial arts and can use ice magic in his human form. He also knows aggressive mantis boxing, which takes advantage of his immortality. After getting Maba's left eye, or the demon eye, Bree gains the ability to use the witch's magic, enabling him to use spatial magic to manipulate space, and of course, ice magic. Kaburagi Akira, Dance in the Vampire Bund. The protagonist of his show, Kaburagi Akira, is a member of the Earth Clan and a werewolf, which is responsible for protecting the Tepes vampire family. He's kind, loyal, and revered by the juniors of his clan. He is the son of Wolfgang Regendorf, the head of the clan. As a protector of the royal vampire family, Akira serves the vampire queen, Mina Tepes. He falls in love with her but keeps his beastly personality a secret. In the past, the wolves had gone through a rite of passage ritual where Akira, Graham, Graham, Angel, and Sanin were dropped into a place as cold as the Arctic with no clothes and contact with others. This was to teach them to create a strong bond as a wolf pack and survive, and their bond did strengthen. However, Graham kills Sanin, and amidst the confrontation, Akira kills Graham after he loses control. This experience haunts him and Angel, stripping Akira of his innocence. Naturally, he grows afraid to let Mina know about his beastly inner nature. As a werewolf, he can shift between his human and wolf forms, which enhances his stats and gives him claws. He can even choose which parts of himself he wants to turn into a wolf and which parts he wants to keep human. His abilities grow even stronger with anger, while he can change the nature of his claws, switching between energy, metal, bone, and keratin. However, silver continues to be the werewolf's weakness, and Akira is not immune. Setsuna, Redu of Healer. Redu of Healer is an isekai anime where Setsuna, or Neuda, is a female demi-human slave who was bought by Kiaru in Lanarita. She has a humanoid body with wolf paws for feet and arms and legs covered in fur. She also has a tail and wolf-like ears. A life of enslavement has also led to her developing a deep hatred towards humans. Kiaru finds Setsuna in the custody of a slave trader and notices her resentment. While Setsuna desires to get revenge on her enslaver, Kiaru promises to assist her with it and brings her to his inn, where he observes her memories. He notices how powerless she is and convinces her to overcome it. To counter this, she becomes his sex slave, which will seemingly increase her level cap. Isekais, man, we know. Later, she goes to the Ice Wolf village to save her kin from becoming slaves, while Kiaru helps her thin out the enemies. Setsuna engages ferociously in battle. Out of gratefulness to Kiaru for helping her with his revenge, Setsuna becomes his slave for life. Engaging in intercourse increased Setsuna's level cap to make her overpower the average human, allowing her to kill multiple opponents at once with ease. She is also agile and has superior senses alongside ice claws. Seijin Komura Bleach. Komura is one of the captains in Soul Society, heading the 7th Division. He's the only captain or Soul Reaper with an animal-like appearance. Canonically an anthropomorphic wolf, Komura has grown up being self-conscious about his appearance. When he joined the Seirete, he would initially hide his face and conceal his body. After his close friend Captain Tosin betrays Soul Society to side with Aizen, Komura goes on to remove his hat. In the past, he had left his family, who used to live in the shadows, as they believed that they were not accepted in society for their wolf-like appearances. However, Komura got to join the Gotai 13, despite not being human, because Yamamoto was willing to give him a chance. Meanwhile, his friendship with Tosin was easy for him because the latter was blind. Komura is known for being a loyal friend and having a golden heart. He's also very forgiving and powerful at the same time. As a captain, he possesses the second stage of the sword release, or the Bankai. In his case, it creates a gigantic, powerful suit of samurai armor that mimics his movement and attacks with much greater strength. In the 1000-year Blood War arc, Komura attains the humanization technique which he has learned from his kin. Wolf, Blood Lad. A longtime friend and rival of Stas, Wolf isn't actually a pure werewolf. Instead, he considers himself to be a mongrel, as he is supposedly a cross between a werewolf and some demon. Wolf comes to know Stas when he crashes through Wolf's hideout. Meanwhile, Wolf is young and has been disowned by his family because he's not pure-blooded. He moves on to the Western Demon District, where he builds his strength and finds a gang to support him. He then commences an annexation of the lower demon world and manages to conquer all of it once he gets a bit older. Powerful and strong-willed, he eventually takes the entire Western District under his thumb. Wolf hopes that by doing this, he can prove his strength and be accepted by his family, with his father being the king of the demon world Acropolis. Eventually, he travels to the human world to find his mother. Wolf's magic and strength affects his body physically, but due to being half werewolf, he cannot maintain his animal form for more than 3 minutes. Within these 3 minutes, however, he can emit shock waves from his claws and seal his magic into his weapon of choice, the iron rod called the Cannibal. With help from his mother, he unlocks the magic called Charisma, which allows him to use his demon power as a vacuum with which he draws his opponents or things within a close range towards himself to attack. Guin Moroka, Rosario plus Vampire. A werewolf and student at Yokai Academy, Guin Moroka gains access to his highest powers on a full moon. This allows him to rival their natural enemies, the vampires, while having greater speed. He's introduced as the president of a newspaper club, but we soon find out that he spies on girls and has a tendency towards perversion. Naturally, he's been beaten up several times. In fact, most of his arcs revolve around him being girl crazy rather than a werewolf. When he does turn into a werewolf though, his stats are enhanced. He acquires fangs and claws, and his regenerative healing becomes very efficient. He can also semi-transform himself during the day, which allows him to keep a human form while having a tail and lupine ears. He's a great hand-to-hand combatant, team worker, and has the flash step ability. However, he loses brownie points and our respect because of his obsession with taking sleazy pictures of girls and spying on them. Aki, Monster Soul. Monster Soul finds its protagonist in the carefree Aki, who is dedicated to helping those in need regardless of their race. He also cares for his friends a lot and attacks those who would hurt them. As an S-class soul, or direwolf, Aki is considered to be special. He has 2 horns on his head which are hidden within his hood. Meanwhile, hunters see him as the weakest in the group and target him more often than others. When he was young and weak, his parents were killed by Belzi. After the latter was defeated, Aki's parents' souls were returned and his parents were revived. Aki possesses a soul form which makes him akin to a bipedal wolf. However, the form requires way too much energy, causing Aki to often fall asleep after transforming. In this form though, he has enhanced strength, speed, and a monster fist that can create tornadoes, earthquakes, thunder, wind, and blizzards. Gallen, the Darkstalkers franchise. Gallen, or John Talbane, was born to a werewolf father and an English human mother. Unfortunately, his mother passed away after giving birth to him. He also lived without his father, as the two maintained no contact and he could do nothing to find him. As a human, however, he lived peacefully until he transformed into a werewolf on a full moon night and was shunned by human society. This led to him finding out he was a Darkstalker, which he was oblivious to since he didn't know his parents. He then dedicated himself to believing in his inner humanity, hoping that it will give him physical humanity as well. Gallen's story is all about a person desiring to be something other than what they truly are, only to end up accepting themselves as they are. He regained his human form after Pyron was defeated, but this did not stop humanity from fearing him. The curse never left him either, as he turned into a werewolf once again, only this time he had to face his inner werewolf state, or the Dark Talbane, an entity within him that controlled his transformations for him. He defeated the entity and got the ability to control his form, and he decided to live his life as a wolf while retaining his humanity, showing Gallen that life is what we make it out to be, not what we receive. Garda, Noblesse. A powerful werewolf warrior, Garda used to serve Muzaka, the previous werewolf lord. She was obedient and loyal up until he disappeared, following which she expressed her dissent towards Maruke. This led to her being branded as a traitor, and she was subjected to terrible experiments for centuries. Ultimately, Garda was turned into a weapon to kill Muzaka. In the show, the nobles, who used to oppress humans, begin to catch the werewolf's attention for meddling in human lives. In fact, the knowledge of Maruke being friendly with the nobles had led to Garda's so-called betrayal. She is saved from being experimented on by Muzaka, but she ends up attacking him as she believes he's the reason for her misfortunes. She's also going through severe cognitive distortion due to the torture she's been put through. However, after he fights back after hesitating for a while, he brutalizes her in a frenzied state. As a werewolf, Garda is very powerful and can change her body to become more wolf-like. The experimentation also gives her the ability to prevent Muzaka's regeneration with her attacks. Meanwhile, she herself attains monstrous regeneration abilities. Garda also has immense spiritual energy, or aura, and can manipulate it to fire powerful beams with great skill. Date Masamune, Sengoku Nightblood. In Sengoku Nightblood, Yuzuki is transported to a supernatural world where she wakes up amidst a battlefield and is found by an army leader. However, she soon learns about the unnatural being of the armies, which are all led by werewolves and vampires. This makes her the special one, as she is neither. Date Masamune is the ruthless but crafty general of the werewolf army. His right eye remains covered with an eye patch, earning him the name of the One-Eyed Werewolf. However, he possesses a soft heart. The duality existed because he was taught that a commander in his position was supposed to act the opposite of what he felt. In reality, his pride and nonconformist attitude prevents him from being honest with himself. He is highly capable and creates unusual strategies to change the flow of the battlefield and confuse his enemies. However, his army is small, and Masamune is determined to make a name for it. He's not averse to taking backhanded routes for his goals, as he uses methods such as backstabbing and manipulation for his purposes. But overall, you can pretty much call him the Griffith of Sengoku Nightblood, minus the blood sacrifices and horrible violence against women, of course. Luke Bowen, Phantom in the Twilight. Luke Bowen manages life as a chef in Cafe Forbidden as well as a werewolf. He enjoys cooking, is energetic, and teases his friends. However, this cheerful personality is contrasted by his past, where he destroyed his hometown with his brother and then cut ties with his younger brother. Bowen has many failures in life, which he masquerades with his more airy attitude. He eventually begins to develop feelings for Bei Lu Tong, who comforted him for not protecting his brother. He had the standard werewolf abilities, such as superhuman strength, speed, agility, reflexes, and regeneration. Chain Sumeragi, Blood Blockade Battlefront and Beyond. Japanese manga series Blood Blockade Battlefront and Beyond revolves around the city of New York, or rather, the former city of New York, because in this series, the physical world collides with the Beyond and turns NYC into Hell Salem's Lot, a playground for humans, demons, and all kinds of supernatural entities in between. The focus of this series is Leonardo Watch, a young photographer who gets the all-seeing eyes of the gods. In return, his sister's eyesight is sacrificed, so Leonardo moves to Hell Salem's Lot and joins the organization known as Libra to fight monsters and terrorists while doubling as a journalist. The focus of this entry, though, is Chain Sumeragi, an invisible werewolf that works with the Libra-affiliated Werewolf Bureau. The exposure of the Beyond to NYC turns Hell Salem's Lot into a self-contained bubble that is a melting pot of monsters and magic. Life inside this bubble is far different from life outside of it, and many new bureaus and vigilante organizations had to be set up to tackle the new invaders of planet Earth. Chain joins one such department, the Werewolf Bureau, which is an all-female group of badasses that take down monstrous threats within the bubble. Chain is not a conventional werewolf in that she doesn't turn into a feral half-beast creature using her powers. She does possess typical werewolf traits like enhanced senses that allow her to see and hear far beyond the limits of a normal person, and her agility is lightning quick. But her greatest ability is to turn invisible. Well, not exactly turn invisible, more like erase her existence to a degree where she becomes intangible. As an invisible werewolf, Chain is ideal for infiltration and assassination missions, which seem to be her specialty in the series. She can walk through walls, go undetected in fully manned institutions, and can even kill a person by ripping their hearts out, though she phases her hand into their bodies to do so, as opposed to using brute strength. What makes Chain more like a conventional werewolf is her sadism, which is on full display whenever she fights her opponents or has to deal with Zap. Tenku, Twilight of the Dark Master. Twilight of the Dark Master is a story about ancient beings and malevolent love, where werewolves serve as detectives instead of nightly terrors. A long time ago, the Great Mother Spirit had created humans, demons, and guardians. However, following a catastrophe that occurred 30 years before the present timeline of 2089, humans have mostly taken control of the world, while only a few guardians and demons remain in Neo Shinjuku. One of them is Tsunami Shijo, an ancient fire manipulator and guardian who, in the OVA, is a private investigator looking for a human who had been turned into a monster by drugs. As the story unfolds, it's revealed that the person pulling the strings behind all of the misdeeds occurring in the movie is actually Shijo's oldest lover turned mortal enemy, who was also responsible for killing Shijo's human lover 30 years ago. This dual-sex demon named Takamiya also wishes to enslave mankind, so in order to prevent that from happening, Tsunami must stay ahead of his enemy at all times. That's where Tenku comes in. The part-time Lycan is a full-time investigative partner of Tsunami's, and he puts in the grunt work while his boss does the heavy thinking and lifting. In fact, Tenku is the one who finds and rescues Shizuka after her husband Iji turns into a demon and recommends that he take her troubles to Shijo himself. Of course, Tenku was looking out for himself as well, as he worked with Shijo and was basically bringing a case to his boss, but Tenku was exceptional in his own right. Aside from his caramel skin tone and swept aside swoon-worthy curls, Tenku is a resourceful investigator that manages to find all that Tsunami needs for his case, in deadlines that can only be called ridiculously short. Well, he doesn't adhere to all of his co-workers' unrealistic performance standards, but Tenku works fast and Tenku works diligently. He was the one who came to Shijo with the breakthrough discovery regarding the Crystal Club, which directly linked Iji's disappearance to Takamiya themselves, which proves his worth as a detective. But more than that, Tenku relates to Shijo's struggles with adapting to a human lifestyle as a non-human entity, and that's what makes their dynamic as amicable as it is. Tenku is a werewolf, but in the manga he reveals that he doesn't kill humans because that's his personal choice. Instead, he uses his powers to save humans as much as he can, working alongside Shijo as a private eye in a post-apocalyptic city. Tenku is an inspiration in that regard, because he comes through for you whenever you need him, and even when you don't. Kiba, Wolf's Reign. The protagonist of the show, Kiba's first pack had burned to death in a forest fire which was caused by Lady Jagura. A Native American shaman went on to raise him and told him how he was sheltered from the flames by lunar flowers because they knew Kiba would find paradise. Naturally, Kiba begins this quest to find paradise in the hopes of finding a future. In the anime, he becomes the leader of a pack for his quest and meets Hige, who he tells about paradise while in government custody. Hige agrees to follow Kiba and they sneak out of custody together. Their journey journey is ridden with obstacles, however, with the two having to do things such as looking for food in sewers and consuming rats. Towards the end of the story, Kiba notices a single lunar flower and sprints towards it as the show ends. It is implied that everyone on Kiba's side dies, but he possibly got a glimpse of paradise before passing on. As a human, Kiba looks like a young man, but he turns into an Arctic wolf after he transforms. Kiba is proud of his identity as a wolf and initially hates humans for hunting him. He is also aloof and constantly on the run from being hunted. He hates when wolves disguise themselves as humans, which is also a result of his pride in his species. However, meeting Hige begins to change his perspective, and he eventually resorts to using his human disguise, as it will help him in avoiding being hunted down. Marvelous verdict! With so many werewolf stories where the writer needs to stick to certain concrete tropes, the tales can get a little repetitive. To avoid such an issue, mangakas create different worlds, different relationships, different dynamics, and different backstories to keep their works as fresh as possible. Anime like Yuasa and Blood Lad revel in classic rivalries, which are loved across the world. On the other hand, stories like Vampire Hunter D and Hellsing keep the focus on the noble vampires, but make the stories more interesting by introducing werewolves into the mix. The best thing about animation is that the possibilities are endless, which ultimately helps anime storytellers use existing tropes to create their own unique stories. But what are your thoughts on this? How many of these animes have you watched? Let us know in the comments section down below. We hope you enjoyed this video and have a hairy, scary Halloween.